Okay, so hi, Miss Grace and everyone. This is the peer review session for Group 5B, and the peer review session will start off with my presentation. So now let me share my screen. Okay, so the title of my presentation is Communication in the ESL Classroom, and this is an improved framework from the previous task one. First of all, let us just start off the presentation with a question. What are the elements of a good classroom environment? So basically, the elements of a good and favorable classroom environment which every teacher wants to create is contain this kind of elements. Be supportive of the students. You let the students know you will always have their back and provide positive reinforcement for the students. You build positive relationship and provide useful feedback for improvements to the students. So how can we achieve all those elements in order to create a positive and appropriate classroom for efficient and effective teaching and learning session to go on? The answer is through effective communication. Teachers have to be equipped with those communication skills in order to have a favorable classroom environment that can let the students to study efficiently. So first of all, immediacy behavior is a very important component in the ESL classroom. So what is immediacy behavior? Basically, immediacy behaviors are verbal and non-verbal behaviors that lessen real and perceived physical and psychological distance between communicators. So this kind of immediacy behaviors, they can like shorten your distance between the students so that teachers and students will not have such a big gap between them, right? So now some examples of immediacy behavior, teachers moving around the classroom. Of course, teachers should only move around the classroom at a appropriate timing. For example, like during group activities or when students are doing their exercises. So you move around so that the students can reach out to you easily when they have any questions. If you're having like a test or something, an examination, you don't go walk around and then stare at the student's answer, and then some teachers even like shake their heads and sigh. That will create a very stressful environment for the students. And of course, make eye contact. No matter you are having a physical class or online class, you have to make eye contact in order to let them know that your attention is with the students. So like I'm doing a presentation right now, I'm actually looking at the camera of my laptop instead of the screen so that I have that kind of eye contact with my audience. And that we have to be friendly with the students because students always like friendly teachers. For example, like when you enter the class, you smile and then you ask them, how do you do? You show that you care for them instead of just showing some kind of poker face and like emotionless face. So they will feel like afraid and they don't want to reach out to you. They don't want to they don't have the motivation to learn in the class anymore. And lastly, be expressive and add sense of humor. Expressive means that you have that kind of hand gestures going on, and you have very like I would say exaggerated facial expressions, and add sense of humor so that they can like be interested in the content that you teach. But beware that humor and offense is actually the line between humor and offense is actually very blurry. So maybe you say that as a joke, but students take it as an offense. So you will have to be very careful about that when you apply it in the classroom. And this is the proximate zones of personal space. It is more like a physical distance between the teachers and between teachers and students. We have public space, social space, personal space, and intimate space. So teachers will need to observe, and then they need to decide which type of space is um, appropriate to apply in different situations. For example, like you are teaching a huge class, 50 students, and you are using teacher-centered learning, you are writing on the board. So that is when you use public space. And social space is like you walk around during the group activities, you facilitate them. And personal space is more to like one-to-one consultation session between teachers and students. And the last one, intimate space, I think this applies more to the student-student communication, because some very close friends, they will like, grab their shoulders, and then the girls will hold hands and so on. So um, some of the intimate action is not that appropriate if it happens between teacher and student. So teachers will have to observe and then apply the most appropriate space between students. Okay, so this one, stereotype and bias. I actually put this in my presentation because I've seen my teachers, my own teachers, they have this kind of stereotype towards students. They say this race of students is always bad at this subject, and that race is always good at this subject. That is stereotype. And I would say that academic excellence and stuff is not related to race, religion, background, and sort. So we should eliminate all kinds of stereotype, discrimination, and bias in the classroom. And of course, human beings are biased, and as teacher, every single teacher will have a favorite student and a least favorite student. So of course, we can have like a teacher's pet, but we cannot show favoritism in the class or have special treatment in the class, because that would seem unprofessional, and you will eventually lose the trust from your student. Okay, so now moving on to the next slides. Gain respect, not demand respect. Of course, teachers always say that the students don't respect me, and they demand respect from the students, like you need to greet me louder, not in such a soft tone. But you have to gain their respect, gain their trust by building this kind of relationship through communication. Let them trust you, let them believe in you, not just demand them and shout at them, you need to respect me, because that will create a very negative impression in students' mind, and they will lose interest in your class. And moving on to the willingness to communicate. Willingness to communicate is defined as a learner's readiness to enter into discourse at a particular time with a specific person or people using a second language, right? So how to make our students be willing to communicate in second language, in this case, English. We have to develop positive self-concept. We encourage students to perceive themselves as good English speakers by encouraging them, saying things like, see, English is very easy, and then, well, you actually speak English very well, and you are a good English speaker, so they can like have a positive self-concept towards learning the English language. And secondly, encourage students to speak via activities. So in this case, teachers may arrange group activities, because students will be more willing to communicate with their peer compared to teachers, and encourage them to use English language for communication purposes during group activities, so they can like more use the language more, and eventually pick up the language structure and apply it on a daily basis. And lastly, make them curious. For example, like you tell a story, like, right, you tell maybe issues that is happening around the world, in order to make them ask you questions, because students are actually very curious, and they will ask you a lot of questions if you maybe you'll share like a hanging story without an ending. So they will ask you like, what happened in the end? So what happened to this character and that character? So that it will make them be willing to communicate with you more. And actually, the reflection session after teaching is very, very important as well as a teacher, because without the reflection session, you would not know how good or bad you are during the last lesson. So after each lesson, you can like ask yourself, am I too strict? Am I too lenient towards the student? Is this approach appropriate, suitable to my students, or I should change another approach, change another method, so that you can further like improve your teaching and learning session in the ESL classroom. Okay, so I don't have any fancy quote to share. I would like to share my personal philosophy as a future educator, right? Teaching is not a job. It is a serious responsibility. It is not like those who are working in big corporate. They go to work every day. They do whatever the boss asks them to do, and then they receive the salary every month. Teaching is more than that. We have to care. We have to like see the potential. We have to encourage them and guide the students to the right path in their life. So hopefully, I I hope that every single members present present in this peer review session will become a very good educator in their future. And I believe we can all become a good educator in our future as well. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you very much. Any comments?
First of all, Sam, thank you for the presentation, such a wonderful presentation. But my question is, my comment is it the things that Sam put in the presentation is basically based on Sam's previous communication framework? Is that how Sam do it?
Um, I I actually put in more like elements instead of following my previous framework. I improve it, and then I put all those improved elements in my presentation. So my presentation is focusing on what I want to improve based on my previous framework.
And I want to thank you first. And I think your slides are very simple but very clear to understand. And I like your expressions, like when you are present, you are smiling, and everything else was very good.
Yes, I agree with CHENXI. I think Sam did a very good presentation, and his slide is very clear. And although it's very simple, like there's just points, like main points, but he elaborates more on the points. So I guess Sam did a very good job.
Okay, thank you very much for all your comments. I really appreciate that. So I think we can move on to the next presenter. Who is the next presenter?
I think it would be CHENXI, since I would go third and BASIT would go fourth.
Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen. If I cannot, I want Juna help me to share my screen. Wait, yeah. Okay, thank you, JUNRAN. Does that echo? How about now?
I think it's okay now.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
okay now.
Okay, good evening to everyone. My name is Wang Chenxi and my number is 20794. Today I'm going to present the framework of communication for ESL Classroom. At first, teaching English sounds simple. Now, know how to speak English, so teaching English must just stand in front of the class and teach students English. Introduced suddenly felt overwhelmed when he sat down for the planning class or stood up to teach for the first time. There is so much to cover: where to start, how to choose and order your event, how do you know what is feasible and what is not, how to find enough materials to fill the entire 60 minutes class course. This is something that basically answers all the above questions and will completely change your teaching method, the framework. Next slide, please. And next slide. Thank you. English courses are not only about grammar and vocabulary. Students also need opportunities to practice skills such as reading comprehension. We can divide course types into two major categories: skills and systems. Language skills are reading, listening, speaking, and writing. These skills can be further divided into two subcategories: receptive skills and reading and listening. This involve receptive language. Production skills, speaking and writing. This involve producing language. Next slide, please. So this brings us back to the concept of frameworks. Once you decide which type of course to teach, the corresponding course framework will provide an outline of how to teach. Next slide, please. Some real and feasible mini projects that are worth trying in ESL class are: the first one is class series of views, opinions, attitudes that support or oppose certain issues, policies, norms, rules, and ideologies. Examine lifestyle, viewpoints, historical events through artist work to form a view of a country's culture. Read, summarize, and critique different types of text. Next, please. Comparing newspapers, magazines, news stories, cartoons, advertisements, review all of part of story, feature film, document, movie, and analyze movie review and reach consensus on the best or worst and worst movie. Describe, compare, and reflect on creative works from this part in the general project area. Now is a task of discussion time for a wise project theme. Here are some examples. Next slide, please. And here are some examples. If we oh no, last one. Here are some examples. Yes. Here are some examples. If we can examine the film reviews to excite students' listening and writing skills in class. Students generally gravitate towards watching films and talking about them. Films reviews provide useful information about the films. Therefore, students could be involved in reviewing the film reviews by asking them to Read the selected 4 to 5 film reviews and make notes on the essential features in the story of the film, as highlighted. Discuss and decide which film should be the best and which the worst to watch or not to watch, and support the group's view with convincing arguments. Organize the notes in order to present and the group's ideas, views, conclusion, and justifications. And the group reporter presenter the tries to persuade the class to watch or not to watch the films they recommend. In the end, the class may vote on which film they would be interested in watching or not watching to see if the group's ideas were convincing to the class or not. In the other hand, we also can use comparing news stories to practice reading and communicating. Based on the principle of journalistic ethics, news reporting should be unbiased and natural. However, does it always happen in reality? It is an interesting question to be examined. Given this, probing this question as an in-class and mini project can be highly stimulating and meaningful. Hence, a rewarding activity, the project can be worked out in the following manner. The same news story published in 2 different newspapers on the same day in 2 or more different countries may be chosen for this project. Students may be asked to read the news stories from different newspapers, examine the issue of new reality or bias involved, and the finding may be presented before the whole class by the project group representative. And the following probing question may be investigated. Are the facts reported in the news stories obviously? Is the information provided in the news stories reliable and authentic? If it not only then whose views are represented. The issue of bias, various naturality, and could be investigated using the following guidelines. Mm, from from all these points of view, classroom next slide, please. From all these points of view, classroom project works has great potential to support ESL learners in their effort to improve their language skills, conversation skills, and thinking skills and abilities. However, only when you learn more about the nature of different types of project-based tasks and activities can you fully realize the true potential and value of project work. Through adaptation, creativity, and innovation, and well-planned tasks and activities, the project-based framework brings a more complete teaching experience and is indeed proven to be beneficial to both teacher and students. Next slide, please. And this is a references page. Thank you for your listening. Thank you, everybody. So that is my presentation. Any comments?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting and informative. I think the only comments I would say is about intonation. Maybe can sound more natural instead of like reading intonation. And I think overall it's still a very good and informative presentation to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you pay more attention to how to improve students' communication skills and increase communication between teacher and teachers. So I think you should I think you need to focus on how to uh, how to be a friend uh, with with students because we are future teacher.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
In my opinion and my comments, I think that I have three comments to Rocco personally. And the first one is I like the way how you give your examples and so on, but I think that maybe you could improve in terms of elaborating it, but related to your personal experience if you have that kind of experience, because it will feel us very connected, and then we could feel the sense of belonging if we heard examples that truly related to our experience. And then the next one is my comments is Rocco, you need to visualize your ideas when you talking or when you presenting your slides. What I can see is your examples or the things that you say are not on the slides, so I can have some hard moments to visualize what is your ideas actually. And then the third one is eye contact. But I think that these 3 points that I propose to you, you can improve it in the real presentation. But anyways, I am very impressed or happy with your classroom project. I like the name, classroom project. I think that's all from my side. And I am sorry if I cross or step the line in your presentation.
For me, I think I agree with Basit about the visualization. I mean, maybe you could put some of the, like maybe some points in the slide to make people could see it better what you are trying to convey, and then maybe you could actually add on your points, because I actually time the presentation and you only present for 8 minutes. So Madam said we need to present for at least 10 minutes. So maybe you need to add on some points. Okay, I think that's it from me.
Okay, thank you for your guys' comments. And for my slide, and I want to add something is that I want to explain because I put something points, just simple points into the slide, and I explain it by myself, some details by myself to explain. So I will add more details, more points into my slide for you to see, for you to understand. Thank you for your guys.
Okay, so the next presentation would be me. Okay, wait. You guys can see my slides, right?
Yes,
Okay.
we can see the
Yes.
series. Right.
All right. So my name is HANISAH binti Abdul Jalil. So this is my presentation prepared for Madam Grace. So my presentation is called Framework of Effective Communication for ESL Classroom. Since since it's aligned with this course, we learn about communication. So it's about effective communication in ESL Classroom. Okay, so for the next one, gonna start with a quote. So communication is one of the most important skills you required for a successful life, by Catherine Pulsifer. So how do we relate this to our ESL classroom? Is that as a teacher, as an English, as an ESL teacher, it is communication. Effective communication is indeed a crucial skill that is required for a teacher in order for them to successfully persuade students to speak in the target language, which is English language. So communication is indeed really important in a teacher for them to aspire students to actually speak the language. Okay, so this is the overview of my framework of effective communication. So the first one, we have introduction, and then the contents of the framework, and then the conclusion. Okay, so for the introduction, I'm gonna talk about 2 points, which is what is a framework in general and why is it important. And then the second one, I will talk about why does communication in the ESL classroom, what does communication in the ESL classroom emphasize on? Okay, so moving on to the first point. So what is a framework and why is it important? So framework is an essential supporting structure that serves as a guideline for teachers. So it is actually some written guideline that helps teacher to keep track on every aspect they want to incorporate in the classroom. So by having a framework, a teacher could keep track on every aspect that they need to imply in the classroom for them to always be prepared and for them to always know if they are on the right track or if they already apply the things that they wanted to apply. So in this framework, it would highlight on the importance of teachers having effective communication skills. So this is related with our course LHE3222, which is communication skills in TESOL. So it focus on the teacher, focus on how teachers that have effective communication could improve students' learning and also could improve motivation of students to actually speak in English. Okay, for the second point in the introduction, what does communication in the ESL classroom emphasize on? So communication in ESL classroom should emphasize on the use of English among students. So yes, indeed, because as a student, one of the reasons why we learn English language is for us to be able to use the language. Thus, as an ESL, uh, ESL teachers need to use communicative language to encourage students to speak in English. So what is a communicative language? So communicative language is actually a teacher emphasize or utilize the use of target language in the classroom. So if it's an ESL classroom, so the target language would be English. So the teachers would utilize the use of English language in class in order for them to persuade and encourage students to also use English language in class. So communicative language help to develop students' communicative competence. So when the teachers always use English language in class, so the student will also be aspire to use the language. So it would improve their communicative competence in the language. And then moving on to the contents, I will be explaining about 4 main contents, which are the first one, identifying the student's background. Second one, teachers' criteria in effective communication, implementation of interactive activities, and the last one is applying feedback. Okay, so identifying the student's background. So in the framework, it serves as a guideline for these target students, which is Form 3 student in secondary school. They are in the school that is located in the countryside. They are in the higher class, but they have medium proficiency in English. This is because since they are located in the countryside, so the people there, like the society there, did not really utilize the use of English language in their daily life. Hence, they barely use English on a daily basis. So they only have medium proficiency in English. So why is it important for a teacher to identify the student's background in order for them to have effective communication? So this is to make sure that the teacher could incorporate the best use of language according to students' English proficiency and background knowledge. So when the teachers know where the student came from, their upbringing, their culture, the teacher could like, how do you say that? The teacher could use the words, use the grammar that is appropriate with the student's English proficiency. So there's like this one quote, tap in students' background. So it is important for a teacher to tap in students' background or background knowledge, or in other words, schemata, for students to be able to relate to the lesson that the teacher is conveying on a higher degree. So in order for a teacher to be able to tap on students' background, the teacher could ask the student's opinion when the teacher is conveying a lesson. So the teacher could ask the student, like, what do you think about this topic? So the students could give their opinion, and from that opinion, teachers would like receive feedback, and they could measure the students' comprehension or understanding about the lesson before they start the lesson. So when the teacher tap in students' background with like familiar examples that is related with their culture and their upbringing, it would help students to recall a larger amount of information of the lesson. Okay, so that's for the first part. Okay, so the next part, I'm going to talk about teachers' criteria, like the criteria that teachers need in order to have effective communication. Okay, so the first one, a teacher must have positive self-concept. So self-concept refers to how the teachers value themselves and how like others see them. So having positive self-concept would build confidence in the teacher. So when the teacher is confident, they will be able to teach efficiently, and they will be able to communicate effectively. So when they have confidence in teaching, you can see that verbal and also the nonverbal communication would be more welcoming. So when the teacher is confident, they are positive, they always have like this positive mindset, they would have like a cheerful tone when they are teaching, and also they would have this welcoming body posture. And yeah, this would indirectly increase the teacher and student relationship, because the students would feel more close to the teacher. And then the next one, a teacher must perceive active listening. So this would help to develop a rational evaluation of the teacher. So for example, if the teacher is confronting a student that have a problem, so the teacher could listen to them attentively, actively could perform active listening and listen to them, and then they would be able to come up with a rational evaluation and then give feedback to the student to resolve their problem. And then the next one is practice immediacy behaviors. So it is important for a teacher to practice moderate immediacy behaviors so that they could create cordial atmosphere among students. So this cordial atmosphere would make students to feel more motivated in learning, and also the student would feel more motivated in communicating with the teachers. And then last but not least, the teachers must educate observing skills. So this observing, like an observant teacher could improve their teaching approach, because for example, when they are having a lesson, so when they like observe that the students seems like they are not interested, so the teacher could ask the student what's the problem, like so that they could improve on their teaching based on the students replies. And then the next one in the framework is the implementation of interactive activities. So teachers need to implement activities that could encourage students' interaction by using the target language. So for example, the teacher could conduct a classroom debate among students. So in this kind of interactive activities, it could improve students' verbal and also non-verbal communication. So when they are having like debating with their friends, it could improve their speaking skills. It could also improve their listening skills. So it involves the verbal and non-verbal communication. And this kind of activities also involve teachers' effective communication skills, because when they see the students debating, they will need to listen attentively to the students' arguments, so that the teachers could give feedback at the end of each like debate session. And the last one for the content is applying feedback. So there are two types of feedback, which is students' feedback towards teacher and also teachers' feedback towards student. So students' feedback towards teachers is also important in classroom, because it could help in improving the teacher's method in conveying their lesson. So the teacher could actually get the feedback from student by asking the student, do you understand what I'm talking about, or can you understand what I explained just now, and something like that. And the feedback from the students will help teachers to become aware of what they are lacking, and then they will be able to change their method or change their approach in order for them to have better in order for them to in order for them to be able to convey their lesson better. And teachers' feedback to our student is like the normal feedback that the teachers give. So we have also like two types of feedback, which is the formative feedback, which is the ongoing feedback, maybe the feedback that teachers could give in at the end of each class. And the summative feedback is the overall feedback. Maybe the teacher could give summative feedback at the end of each task or something like that. So the importance of feedback is to help both teacher and students become aware of the aspect that they need to improve. So effective feedback from both teachers and students could help improve the overall classroom environment. Okay, so for the conclusion, as what I have mentioned earlier, like the criteria of teachers, like uh, everything, I could conclude that teachers' effective communication could assist in enhancing students' communication skills, as well as promoting students' learning of the second language. So this is because when the teachers could effectively communicate, it would also improve students' communication skill, because they would be motivated to speak the language, because the teachers also convey the language clearly. And for the last one, I have like a simple quote. Communication is a skill that you can learn. It's like riding a bicycle or typing. If you're willing to work at it, you can rapidly improve the quality of every part of your life. So indeed, communication is a skill that you can learn. So as a teacher, as a future teacher, we need to learn this skill to have effective communication with our students. And although it could be hard, it could be challenging to have effective communication, but we need to try, and so that we could improve the quality of not just ourselves, but also our future student. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanisha. I think that's a very good presentation. I like your way when you are present. Your flow are very smooth and it's very clear. Your speech is very logical and point after point. I noticed that some places you in your slide are marked out, and I think it's good because use different colors to make the audience pay more attention on it. But I think your present are a little bit long, and I think it's too much spend much of time. So I think make it shorter. I think it's more better. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Wang Chenxi because you present you present and explain why the framework is important and its importance, which I think is good because we may focus on how to create a framework without explaining the importance and the benefits of the framework. And it's also important to uh, even investigate the environment and the background of the students, as you said. Um, this method allows us to better understand the students. Yeah, that's all.
For me, myself, in my opinion, Nisa did a very good job because at first she did quote, and then at the end of the presentation, she also quote. So I think that it is a very good for your introduction and also your conclusion. And then Nisa goes one by one. It means that she have a sequence she done it with the introduction and then with the student's background, what kind of or type of students that she teach, and then she goes by the main uh, main thing that going to be implemented in this presentation, which is the teacher's criteria. And then she goes with the implementation on the classroom. Maybe students could do classroom debate. And then the last one, she gave us the feedback. So I think that Nisa did a very good job based on what she has presented before.
Yeah, I agree with Basit. That is a really good presentation. I actually really like Nisa's presentation. Is very detailed and very informative, and the tone, her pitch, voice is like just right. The intonation is very natural. Um, the only problem may be exceeding the 12-minute limit, but yeah, I believe she can make some adjustment. And maybe my suggestion is to focus on the improved element. So those element which is already in the task one framework, maybe you don't have to include them. You just have to include the improved components of the presentation. Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Okay, I go next.
Uh, can I? Oh, one zero one first.
Okay, yeah, you can. Okay, okay, I go next. Mm, Um, Hello everyone, my name is JUNRAN and my matric number is 208764. And this is my topic from work of communication for ESL classroom. First, the introduction. Communication is necessary in an ESL class as a communication tool. English pays attention to the output of language. However, in ESL class, most Chinese students used to learn English by reading and reciting, but seldom have the opportunity to speak English. So such long-term language learning will affect students' use of English in class. And even some students are unwilling to take the uh, in initiative to communicate in English. Therefore, the design of effective framework of communication is helpful to improve the classroom participation of students and enable students to spontaneously grasp the classroom language communication opportunities. First, learning objectives. Learning objectives should consist of students thinking about what they already know and what they will learn next. The teaching objectives are satisfied according to the specific needs of students. Like Bloom said, Bloom made a specific classification of different levels of cognition, namely remembering, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. Therefore, based on the above classification of different levels of knowledge cognition, we can set hierarchical objectives for the knowledge points to be explained in class. For example, the teacher is supposed to teach in the passive voice. Then we can set teaching objectives. Students can evaluate the effect of using passive voice in English communication in different situations. Propose strategies for achieving objectives. There are suggestions. First, a friendly greeting. Second, responsible use of the teaching method of questioning. Third, respect the principal's status of students. And last, carry out various teaching activities. For the first, a friendly greeting. It's very important for students and teachers to greet each other before the class begins. Through short greeting, students and teachers can establish emotional communication with which is more is more conducive to carrying out teaching activities. And for the second, questioning is one of the most commonly used teaching methods in ESL class. Teachers choose reasonable questioning methods according to students' specific learning condition and characteristics. For example, in the face of shy and English level is not high, students should try to use gentle tone to ask a question in line with his learning level. To encourage students to answer and enhance their self-confidence. Don't sorry. Don't scold a student, but encourage him with when he answers wrong. And for the third, respect the principal status of students. To improve students' initiative of learning in the English classroom teaching of the past, and mostly teachers as the main body. Take the teacher speak, student listen to the way of teaching. The lack of communication between teachers and the students not only failed to arouse the issue, and theme of students' learning, also put open the distance between the teacher and the students. That's the students to have feel psychological teacher can't effective communication with the teacher. Oh, yeah, with the therefore, in English classroom teaching, teaching should change the past teaching concepts and teaching methods, improve the subject of students in English class in the in the process of teaching, try to let students talk, do and discuss more. Teachers and students should also communicate more. And when students have have different opinions, teachers should respect students' opinion and conduct English teaching by means of interactive discuss with students. For the last one, carry out various teaching activities. A good student-teacher relationship and learning environment are of great help to students' English communication. English teacher can carry out a variety of teaching activities in English teaching. Put students into groups. For instance, the theme of the seminar and content, and the teachers can use or student or can use all kinds of multimedia teaching equipment to mobilize students' active participation, and the teacher can also participate the activities together with students in the same position. And let students take the teacher as a member of them. And the students and the teacher become friends, enhance the communication between each other so as to help teachers better carry out the teaching activity. Teaching content. First, teaching content is bridge and the link between teachers' teaching and the students' learning, and is a concrete manifestation of teaching objectives. Second, it's necessary for teachers to adjust and expand the teaching content appropriately according to the teaching objectives of the new curriculum and the actual needs of the current students. Third, in the teaching process, teachers should expand and extend the teaching content appropriately according to the actual situation, so as to make the teaching content more vivid and specific, in line with the students' cognitive level. Use the above strategies to teach the content. And the feedback. First, timely feedback can support cognitive process for better performance, including uh, in, including validating or restructuring understanding, improving strategies, guiding students to obtain more information and suggestion directions, and all alternative strategies to improve their performance. Feedback can also enable students to active participate in classroom communication, such as goal setting, task planning, monitoring, and reflection, which are important skills for regulated learning. Feedback can influence students' emotional process, effort, motivation. Teachers can elevate, evaluate, and analyze students according to their feedback, and find out the communication problems that still exist in their learning, and develop new strategies to improve the teaching content. Uh, Conclusion, to sum up, it's very important to strengthen communication between teachers and the students in ESL classroom teaching. Therefore, through the framework of communication, English teachers can strengthen the exchange and the communication between teachers and the students, and level up the classroom atmosphere, and improve students' English learning level and efficiency by paying attention to their own language and form in class, adopting teaching methods of questioning and greeting, and respecting students' dominant status. That's all my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Junran. You did a good job, and I like your PowerPoint, but your speaking speed is not fast enough. I feel you are familiar with some vocabulary. My suggestions is when you switch your slides, you can add some words like next, the next one, I will, what, and the first, last, and that will be better, I think.
In my opinion, for Joran presentation is in terms of the slides, it kind of wordy, and then the second one is better for not only Joran but for all of us to presenting instead of reading. But you know, maybe sometimes what I talk, I do bad. But that is my comments. I'm sorry, Joran, if I hurt your feelings. Thank you. If everyone is okay, I may continue
Well,
with
I
the
think,
last. Sam.
sorry, I think I agree with Basit that the slides is, some of the slides is kind of wordy, and maybe you can try to make it brief and shorter, so that um, the audience will not be just reading your slides. And I, if I'm not mistaken, you did exceed the time limit a little bit. So maybe when Jiran, you would like to work um, at that as well. But overall, I would say is still a quite interesting presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I also agree with Sam. For the points, maybe instead of in paragraph, you can make it in like points and make the words the sentences more simpler. And for me, I think the slide is really good because it has like its own sequence. Yeah, so I think that's it from me.
Okay, I may continue with the last presentation. Wait a moment. Can you guys see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, and today I'm going to hi to my friends and also my language. Today I'm going to present my effective communication framework in an ESL classroom. I will go with my introduction to communication, as I think that in order for you to to get know or better in something that you learn, so you must know it first. And then I will go by the class settings, which what type of class did I teach in my communication framework, and then the improvements on the thesis statements, the improvement that I do from my previously framework, and then the last one is the conclusion. Okay, the first one is Introduction to Communication. According to DeVito, 2017, communication refers to the act by one or more persons of sending and receiving messages that are distorted by noise, occur within a context, have some effect, and provide some opportunity for feedback. So basically, if you are reading and understand this definition of communication by David 2017, so you can easily understand what is really means by the terms of communication. So today we are going to talk about the communication in an ESL classroom, which is the English as second language classroom. So the next one is the class setting. Okay, actually, me myself choosing my framework, I want to do a class for 40 Form 2 students consisting of 19 boys and 21 girls from Sekolah Menengah Kebahasaan, Pekalan Cepa, Kota Baru, Kelantan. And then actually, why I propose and why I choose this Sekolah Menengah Kebahasaan, Pekalan Cepa is I know that sometimes, not sometimes, but me as who live in Kelantan, we have a kind of mindset. We personally ourselves and the others that see us, we have the kind of mindset that Kelantanis cannot perform in English. They always say that the Kelantanis cannot be good in English, cannot be performing in English subjects. So that's why I choosing Sekolah Menengah Kebahasaan Kelantan Cepa Kelantan as my class, because I want to change that kind of mentality, and the kind of mentality in mostly in Kelantanese students, that they also can succeed as same as the others that in different states. And then the next one is it is a mix of high, intermediate, and low proficiency in English subjects. So basically, in this school, we have the high, and then we have the intermediate, and then we have the low proficiency. So it blend in a class. And then this class is a passive and non-active type of classroom. Basically, in this class, we have the high level proficiency of students that doesn't interact with the others that are very low regards to them. And then this is a not non-active type of classroom. But this classroom follows the 21st century classroom when they are facing on each other in a total of 6 people in a group. And then it have a separation allocation between genders and teachers in the middle of the class. Why I propose the separate allocation between genders, as in my opinion, if in class we have students like the boys and girls, maybe according to different genders, they are very shy to ask when they are you know when they are in a communication type of classroom. So when they were shy, so the communication or the learning process is going to be restricted. So that's why I put in my class the separate allocation between genders. Okay, the next one is my improve. The first one is the tolerance and empathy in the ESL classroom. From my previous points, I said that teachers need to be open-minded, be considerate, and have empathy with student situation. And this tolerance that they do will resulting with mutual understanding, especially in foreign language, which is what we're talking about is English. But for the improve points, I did improve in terms of the teachers. Teachers can have a session with students that allow them to talk, express, and convey their feelings and thoughts regards what happened in the classroom. So maybe in 2 hours of class, maybe teachers can have this session their thought and then their what they feel in the class. And this is must be very tolerant, and the teachers, for the side of the teachers, they must accept it, and the students also must also tell the teachers what they feel. And I think that this is a very good point, because we need to have this, because we have students in class, they are very shy to talk. And I think that this is a very good opportunity for them to to cultivate the tolerance and empathy in an ESL classroom. Next one is activity-based classroom. From my original points, I say that in this activity-based classroom involves active role of and collaboration among the students. Teachers must always maintain open dialogues, and teachers also need to improve the students' motivation in learning through activity-based classroom. But for the improvement points that I'm going to say in this presentation is teachers can create an outdoor or physical activity in addition of having an ABL classroom. Example, we already see, if we go to the mall, we can see that there are sometimes the mall do activities to the children, using the game snakes, the tiles and so on. So maybe teachers can use this rather than having an conventional in the class. Maybe teachers could use this opportunity using outdoor or physical activity that also telling or learning in English, but in a more kind of new way. So by using this approach, students will open students' mind of view to have rather an interactive rather than the traditional one. The next one is explicit grammar knowledge. Okay, I already said that in my previous point, which is teachers need to have explicit grammar knowledge, and then students can communicate better if their teacher have the explicit grammar knowledge. And then this will act as a basis in learning the language, and it helps the teachers to improve students' performance by using these 4 main pillars in a language to master, which is the writing, listening, writing, listening, reading, and also okay. And then the improve points that the teachers could improve themselves in order to have the explicit grammar knowledge is first, teachers need to aware of the level in grammar knowledge to aid the students learning in the classroom. And for me myself, I have seen my teachers attending seminars, but actually they are attending seminars that are not related to their grammar knowledge. But I could propose that maybe in future teachers could have these seminars or classes that mainly improve their level of grammar knowledge, although they are already teachers. But for me, learning is an everlasting or is an continuous type of way in life. So maybe teachers can do this in order for them to improve also their grammar knowledge. The next one is active listening. From my previous point, active listening, I said that teachers and students need to apply active listening for a better understanding. And this active listening need training session to improve. And then this through this active listening, teachers could teach efficiently by listening to student response, and students will have better understanding in depth. So for the improvement, I propose that teachers could apply a system called silent mode in the class when it's only allowed for the teachers to talk and the students are completely silent in the meantime to listen to them, and also vice versa. When the time for the students to talk, the teachers must be completely silent. So I think that this effective, I I hope it will be effective. This system could help the students and also the teachers to apply the active listening more efficiently in the class, and this is must be applied strictly in the classroom. Next one is assessment and test. Okay, as we know from my original points, summative assessment is to evaluate student learning at the end of an instructional unit. Measure students' progress by comparing it with the previous course, and teachers are included as a part of communication framework to frequently value students' performance. But for the improvements, I think that the teachers could apply weekly assessment and tests to students to evaluate in detail based on their performance in the classroom. But uh, uh, you are need to be aware that this is only covered on the recent topics learned and teach by the teachers. Because if we do a weekly assessment and test, but covers from week 1 until week 5, and then the next week we do assessment and test to the students, and then covers also on week 1 until week 6. So it can make the students feel stressed, and it could not improve their learning. So that's why I tell you that it only covers on the recent topics that learn and teach by the teachers. The last one is the feedback and questioning. My original points is the formative feedback is a natural part of an ongoing transaction between a speaker and a listener. And then for the summative feedbacks, it is given on the end of a communication. And for the questioning part, teachers must question their students according to the guidelines, such as increase wait time beyond 3 seconds when asking higher cognitive questions. So for the improvements in terms of the feedback, I could propose to the teachers to create a box that students could write and fill in their feedbacks based on the teacher's way of teaching and else. It could be the way of teachers learning, teaching, the way she or he handled the class, and so on. Because we know that sometimes we have students that are very shy to talk, to spit out the things that they want the teachers or feedback in the class. So teachers could have this kind of box that the students that write and fill in is anonymous, but it also could improve the learning. And then for the questioning part, teachers could improve Socratic questioning by doing it in a platform of games. What I mean is, as we know, Socratic questioning is when we ask a question, the other person that we ask, the person that we ask doesn't reply with a answer, but he reply us with another question. So that's kind of Socratic questioning that involves that will somehow enhance our thinking skills and also our critical learning. So maybe teachers could do this kind of Socratic questioning, but in terms of a game that could benefit the students, because students love to do games. And then in conclusion, I think that in a nutshell, this improvement could help especially the teachers to improve their teaching in the class. And for the students, they could learn in an interactive and new way of learning that eventually could benefit them in the studies and the future. I think that's all from me. Thank you for your time and thank you.
Thank you, Best. I think you are the only one presenter that with body language very emotional, very lively. It feels like you just want to tell the audience something and you want to interact with the audience. And I really like your presentation. And I love you what you say that phrase learning is continue in your life. And I don't know if you heard about one old Chinese saying that learn until you're old. And I think you did a very good job. Thank you, Best.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you.
Said empathy and compassion are very important. It's very important to train students to be tolerant of others who when they make mistakes. Um, it's conducive to communication between students and in active listening. Not only teachers need to listen to students, but students also need to listen to each other and their friends, classmates. And your examples are also interesting and particularly detailed. Mm, I can learn a lot of from your presentation. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Wen. Thank you. I really appreciated your comment.
I will say that your presentation and the examples, the tasks, activities is very specific, and um, I also think you have made the comparison between the improved one and the previous framework. I think that will show a clearer picture to us as well. And I would like to mention it's interesting for BASIT to include the stereotype, yeah, towards the Kelantanese students in learning English. But I think BASIT had already proven to us that Kelantanese can also perform in the English language. Yeah, so that's all from me. Good job, Basit.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sam. It actually bring tears to my eyes, actually. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, if that is all, there's no comments anymore, then I think that's all for our peer review session. Thank you very much for participating, and have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
your
you,
cooperation.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
Thank
you. Have a good
you.
night.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Sam, Sam okay ke tak ni, Sam? Ai.